There's bitter days ahead. Death and terror. Betrayal and tears. You must make your stand.
It's the gold standard, the original apocalyptic story.
I have been such a fan of this story, of this book, since I was very young, and to see it finally come to fruition is like nothing else. It's an honor to be a part of this.
It's Stephen King's biggest novel, and it's a commentary on humanity, on mankind. It's really amazing.
Everyone was determined to bring their A game and determined to hold themselves to the level that the book demands.
For me, The Stand is a piece that when I read it 40 years ago, I wanted to visually watch it as a film. I wanted to see it happen.
I know that this is one of Stephen King's masterpieces, and I think it's an important piece of work that I feel very lucky to be a part of. I jumped at the opportunity.
The Stand, to me, is something that stands out for its narrative power, its simplicity in a way, the good versus evil elements and components to it.
The King works that have meant the most to me have been the stuff that's not really straight horror. And I've always loved The Stand because The Stand fundamentally is not a horror novel. I mean, it has some horrific things in it, but it really is his attempt to do Lord of the Rings in the United States.
It was written in the 70s where there was a lot of mistrust in the government. It was after Watergate and the war in Vietnam, and the Cold War was raging, and the oil crisis. And it was a time where it felt like the apocalypse was just around the corner. So unfortunately, it feels very relevant and contemporary in that regard.
What would you do if you were stripped of your rights or the pressure of money, of judgment from your friends and family? Who would you be in the dark? Would you be good? Would you remain good? Or would you succumb to your desires or greed?
This book, in a way, covers all of that territory. It really speaks to blowing up everything you know and starting over and saying, well, which roads are you going to travel on? Where is truth? What can you trust? What can you not trust in? What do you believe? What do you not believe?
It is the gold standard of apocalypse, really, because it asks you many questions that you wouldn't ask yourself.
And forcing people to take a stand.
With all of King's works, it's actually a challenge to adapt them because so much of his writing is so internal. So much of the pleasure of a Stephen King book is the access that it gives you to the innermost secrets of the people he's writing about. And all of that stuff is a challenge to render on screen. As soon as you start out to adapt Stephen King, it's a challenge. But what are we doing if not challenging ourselves?
Captain Trips is a disease that presents a lot like the flu. It's a biochemical weapon as well, so it spreads like wildfire.
Which wipes out 99% of the world's population.
What happens is your neck turns into a tree trunk.
I got you. Easy. They call it tube neck. You get really bad runny nose. It starts out looking like a cold, and then it's like you're coughing and hacking up large quantities of gunk.
One of the symptoms of Captain Trips is death.
King was brilliant in creating this mental image in your head that is unforgettable, and I thought for sure it wouldn't be matched or challenged, and then I saw these mannequins with a tube neck, and they're black, and they're gross, and they're pussy and bloody and just disgusting looking, and I knew I was in.
We really held ourselves to a standard of trying to do it the way it's described in the book, and also always being aware that it had to feel organic and it had to feel like something that wasn't taking anybody out of the story. It had to feel awful, but like living tissue. And so through a combination of prosthetics and some really brilliant visual effects work, even when you have concept art for something like a tube neck, it looks different once you build a prosthetic and put it on somebody. And there's always a question of how much visual effects are you gonna do? How much mucus are you gonna overlay on top of this? How much sweat? How much is it gonna breathe? The great thing is Jake Braver is such a brilliant visual effects supervisor and worked with our visual effects team to get it exactly how we wanted it.
It's an unpleasant way to go out, folks.
We're Randall Flagg is a very delicious character.
My sincere apologies to the housekeeper.
He's very dark and mysterious, but there's also a playfulness to him that I was drawn to. He's an opportunist, and this is a moment for him to start anew. He's given this incredible opportunity to create his dream world. And for the first time, he gets to be the almighty creator, and he thoroughly enjoys that.
From the ashes of Captain Trips, we have risen, and we are heading toward the golden promise of a future we never could have dreamed of in the world that was.
Julie is enamored by Flagg. She's absolutely spellbound by him. He's addictive, he's alluring, he's sexy. She worships him in a way that a fangirl worshipped Elvis and sees him as her personal sex god.
He is making people lean into their worst qualities about themselves and the worst assumptions about humanity.
He means all the bad in the world. He means carnage, destruction, greed.
Stu's center is so strong, and his belief in good and belief in mankind is strong enough that he can recognize that Randall Flagg is the personification of evil.
He's the antithesis to hope.
We set out from the beginning to avoid making him just evil with a capital E, in part because I don't find that very interesting. It felt like it would be limiting in terms of the story we were telling.
What a pleasure. May I offer you a drink?
Randall doesn't really subscribe to morality in the sense humans do. He feels that it's an invented, contrived morality. He believes in freedom and embracing your primal needs and urges, but his style of ruling is also very authoritarian.
It felt like Flagg was really an opportunity for us to get at what the real appeal is of these authoritarian strongmen who certainly seemed at the time that we were conceiving of and writing this story to be ascendant in a number of places around the world.
So you basically get to live out your fantasies and go crazy and have fun, but as long as you never question orders.
I mean, you're Lloyd Henry. You're his right-hand man.
That's me, Sweet Buns. I'm the one that rides the elevator all the way up to the top.
Lloyd falls under Flagg's trap, and Lloyd doesn't really have a chance. And he's also played by Alexander Skarsgård, who is a brilliant actor.
The way Alexander Skarsgård plays him is actually so different. Most actors tend to play it in this very flamboyant way, and Alexander was so understated and so almost gentle in that first scene he has with Nat at the bars of Lloyd's cell.
Look at me.
No,
Why not?
I don't think you're real.
Oh, I'm real, baby.
Well, if you're real, then you must be the devil.
That's not a very nice thing to say, Lloyd.
I just found that to be such an interesting and outside the box and really ballsy choice that he obviously completely makes work because he's so magnetic. Angelina Kekic, our costume designer, worked with me, with us, with the cast. He is described in the book as sort of wearing denim, and obviously the boots are such an iconic image from the book, and we wanted to do justice to that. Scars himself brought this sort of almost rockabilly flair to it, also with the hair that he wanted and the smiley face button.
If Tom was to describe Mother Abigail, you know, she's our mom. We're drawn to her, and she wants good for us.
Nick sees Mother Abigail almost like the calling that he's been waiting for his whole life.
You were supposed to be my voice. The Lord said it was you.
That's what Mother Abigail represents, is the salvation from within.
What Mother A gives is that we are inherently good. We're not as bad as we think we are.
You're all right. You've been through a lot.
And I think that's even what this story is about.
Franny knows that the world needs hope and that the world needs light and that the world needs someone to hold people accountable.
Whoopi Goldberg has wanted to play the role since it was first written. Whoopi sort of had attached herself to it and was going to play it no matter what.
I've been on, ballerina tiptoes ever since because it's a great part.
Having her inhabit the role gave us confidence because everything she does is so grounded and so real that we would never lose sight of the fact that Mother Abigail is a real human being.
I've sinned greatly.
ascendant pride. She's quite flawed, as we discover. You know, we think she's one thing, and it turns out she's actually a human being with all kinds of human traits.
This is a woman who's lived and who knows things. She also has a humor to everything she does, which I think is also necessary. Humor and gravitas.
Very right.
Thank you. I've died many times.
Have you?
Yes.
I can tell.
4 or 5 different things. They kill me off. Because I die with grace.
Yeah, and clearly.
And once you have all that in the same package, her presence does so much of the work for you.
What the hell? Mother Abigail is not this teeny tiny little old frail lady. She's me. She's me, and she's really old. And she's much older than I am, and you can see it. The folks who've done the prosthetics have been brilliant with it.
That's hours of makeup every time she had to be on camera, but also visual effects, touch-ups. We were aware that we weren't going to make her exactly look 108, but that there was going to be some conceit that she's preserved in a way that a 108-year-old woman wouldn't be. And we wanted to give Mother Abigail a sort of uniform, and we wanted it to feel both special and sort of almost magical, but also grounded. Angelina did so much brilliant work throughout the series. A lot of Whoopi's look is Whoopi's province, and so she had very distinct ideas, certainly about the hair and what she was planning to do with it, but even about the costume stuff too.
We all have choice until we don't.
Working with Whoopi is so much fun because she demands professionalism from every single person on set. And so when she walks onto a set, everybody kind of goes, yep, here we go. Now we're really talking. And me. Kind of similarly to Mother Abigail, who demands people to be their best, Whoopi also does that. And it's truly inspiring to watch.
We'll hoof it from here.
The sets on this show are just amazing. And when you walk in there, you go, oh, half my job is done.
It's been really easy to just believe that what's going on is going on because we've had great background actors, just an amazing collection of sets.
I have walked into some spaces that we've been shooting in and been completely blown away.
Aaron Hay, our brilliant production designer, all of his stuff needs to feel lived in and not built so that it's all weathered and it all sort of suggests its own kind of history. Aaron was also one of the big Stephen King fans on our crew, and so was always dropping in little references to the King universe. There are all these little Easter eggs kind of sprinkled throughout in the background of the production design that are just such a pleasure to find.
We have to see each other in each other, and I think that's what happens in Boulder.
Well, the community of Boulder is filled with fear, and it's also filled with great hope. Maybe some love, some sort of sense of community that there's a fighting chance out of this.
Everybody does their part the best they can, and they all just hope that each of their individual parts fit right into the master puzzle of things.
To take humanity, hit the reset button, rebuild in a good way, to put it too simply, maybe.
We wanted the look of Boulder to feel a little more haphazard, in the sense that they would be organized in terms of clearing the bodies from houses, because that's a real public health question, but then people kind of camping out in front of Mother Abigail's porch, and we figured that was probably something that would be more allowed. Essentially, we had a great relationship with this neighborhood about an hour outside of Vancouver, this sort of cul-de-sac within that neighborhood, and they let us do a lot there. We built Mother Abigail's house because we knew we were going to destroy it, but that was the one thing in Boulder that we built.
Welcome to
Well, I've had a lot of fun creating New Vegas. Flag's version of Vegas is Las Vegas on dirty steroids. Everything is bigger and crazier, and basically anything goes. So it's very strictly organized mayhem. That's kind of the world that Flag thrives in.
The look and feel of Vegas is a bona fide party, with Randall Flagg lording over as the Jay Gatsby of it all.
The philosophy of Vegas is basically go for it. Embrace all your inner darkness and demons and lose all your empathy or sensitivity or vulnerability or all the things that make us human. So it's really just a debaucherous, insane place.
The thing that Aaron did with what we call the Pink Palace, which is the abandoned hotel in Vancouver that we took over and turned into Flag's casino, it was just pretty spectacular. I mean, the level of detail, but also just the amount of work, of demolition and then construction that they had to do there was pretty staggering. The background actors obviously were vital, and it was a real undertaking. Hundreds of extras in these wild costumes and committing various kinds of either sex acts or debauchery of all sorts.
You know, you walk onto that set and you feel like you're walking into the book. It's amazing what they did with it.
Oh!
As a Stephen King fan, it's an incredible treat to get to read something written by the author 40 years after he wrote the novel.
I just got excited. The fact that Stephen wanted to go in and present a coda to this work of art that's spoken to so many people over the years. And I just was curious about what he had in his head. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of interpretations of what that coda is all for and what it means.
You sure you two don't want to come keep me company?
I don't want to wake her. That tooth kept her up half the night.
Longtime fans of Stephen King will enjoy kind of like a new concept to possibly believe in. I think whenever you have a story that ends and it doesn't specifically tell you what happens to everyone, people can come up with their own ideas and have long discussions about it. But I think this adds to that conversation and it adds to the fun.
It's good and cold. I don't want to put words in Stephen King's mouth, but I think the way that he describes it is he finally gets to give some of these characters the ending that he's always wanted to give them.
Hello, Franny. Hello, bitch.
I think we knew that his concern was that Franny never got her stand. So that always nagged at him. And he had this further story that he wanted to tell to give her her stand.
Not for my husband, not for my baby, not for the world itself. Get thee behind me, you fucking bastard.
He came to us and said, okay, I see what you guys are doing. I see that you have a vision for this, and I want to write this ending. And essentially, our reaction was, what do you need from us? We wanted to end the series with Flag on a beach presenting himself to potential new followers. He ended up saying, okay, great, I got it. And he went off and came back with this wonderful, beautiful coda.
Worship me!
Whenever people ask me, did you give notes to Stephen King? I say, absolutely. I gave Stephen King a note that said, thank you so much for writing our coda. I loved it. Once you have the sign-off from Stephen King, everything else pales by comparison, as long as we've done right by him.
That's one advantage of having an author like Stephen King who's constantly reassessing and reevaluating his work and the effect that it has on the world and, given how the world has changed since he originally wrote the story.
I think it just shows what a great artist that Stephen King is that he wrote what is deemed a classic novel, one of his best books ever, and he went back to write more and to make it even better. And I think that's super inspiring.
This masterpiece is Stephen King's biggest novel, and really emphasizing how important of a commentary it is on mankind, on good versus evil, and how we're not one or the other. We are everything in between. The Stand is just as relevant now as it will be 100 years from now, because we're always going to have these struggles.
What happens to humanity when the reset button is hit? Where do we go? What does it say about us? And I think those are the themes that make The Stand, the book, so relevant, and always will be.
It sure feels like there are a lot of similarities to today in our political climate.
This idea of do we give into our fear and darkest desires and build a society based upon anger and hatred, or do we accept that we're all just here in this world and let the good in?
When I first read The Stand when I was a teenager, I'm not sure that those questions were as front of mind as they have become. And I think that only makes the questions of The Stand more important than they were even when he first wrote them.